Good morning, Monday morning, Sonder family. It is so good to welcome you. I'm excited for those of you who are saying you've got some cooler weather. I was telling Jennifer yesterday, my car parked in the shade, said it was 100 degrees here in the Dallas, Texas area. So we are holding on. We're holding on. Send us some of that cool weather. I'm Jennifer Ogilvy, and like I said, I'm coming to you from the Dallas, Texas area. You've got Team Jennifer on the call this morning. Most Mondays you get Team Jennifer. So Jennifer Krippner, she's popping on to give you a wave. She's coming to you from a cool, chilly Minnesota, and she'll be hanging out in the chat. If you have any questions along the way, she will be able to, point you in the right direction. And, it's just, y'all, I'm kind of sad. This is our last week of enchantment, right? Officially. Now I'm going to carry enchantment forward. I have loved this theme. It was a nice break from some heavier things that we've had. We had a little whimsy. I don't know if you feel like that, but I feel like enchantment just brought a little bit of spark to my life. So I'm saying goodbye sorta to enchantment, but it's gonna be hanging out in my heart because I've really enjoyed what we've worked on this month. Maybe you feel the same way. Um, you might want to grab your September journal. I'm going to go in a little bit different direction this morning with our weekly setup. We've been together all month, and I thought I'm going to just change some things up a little bit. We're still working on our weekly pages, but I've got some time. I'm going to try to work in some time to take a look at some other things this morning. So make sure you can grab that September journal because you might want to flip at it and take a look at some of those things. A reminder, make sure your chat is set to everyone. Of course, that's how we will communicate. And of course, being here together in that chat, that's what's formed this beautiful community. And so we want to make sure that your Zoom chat is set to everyone so that we can communicate and visit with one another and support one another. Speaking of community, there are the guidelines that we have when we are all together. We want to remind you that this is always a safe space. And we also want you to remember that it is okay to do what you need to do when you come to these socials. So it might just be maybe you need a little extra connection to folks. And so you really do a lot of chatting in the chat box, or maybe this is about nose down, pen on the paper, and get the week set up. So we always invite you, take what you need. If you are not feeling it and you came here to get just a little support, drop that in the chat. It's a rough day. Let me just be here with y'all. We will pump you up. So we're glad you're here. Are there any new Sonder family members this morning who's maybe sitting there with their September journal and they want to check out what this is all about, these socials? We would like you to drop a me in the chat, or maybe you're former Silk and Sonder folk who took a break and you're back. And we want to be sure that we welcome you back to the fam. This is almost like a family reunion when we get together every week. This is our accountability time, our appointment with one another to make sure that we can be the best version we can be, and we find so much joy from one another. My goodness, this community is one of my favorite communities that is in my life. So speaking of our beautiful, enchantment theme, you've seen my little meme that I've chosen all month long. The enchantment isn't about magical thinking. It's about being fully present in the world, but I added a bonus this morning. Maybe the amount of extraordinary things that happen in your life depends on what you notice. And I hope through the theme this month that rings true for you, that you've taken moments to slow and to notice. So we're gonna keep that enchantment spark in our hearts as we move forward into other work that we do. I think bravery is going to be a very good theme for September. So we're going into it with a little bit lighter step. from our enchantment theme, and we'll take a look at what it means to be brave. I do want to encourage you to share your setup or a portion of your setup in Sonder Club because that allows us to get some great examples to share with everybody. Not everybody's always on Sonder Club, so we do want to encourage you to do that. And here's our agenda. We're going to finish up that enchantment mind map. If you are here for the first time, that was bonus prompts about digging into this theme. Every week we looked a little deeper and a little deeper at what enchantment looks like. This is week number 4. I'll show you all 4 prompts in case you want to get a screenshot and have those. But we will finish up week number 4 and then brand new outlook with bravery next week. We're going to do our rosebud thorn reflection and we're going to do our weekly setup pages. And as I mentioned before, I'm going in a different direction this week with those. I'll get back to my regular stuff next week, but it's kind of cool because this doesn't happen often. September 1st is next Monday. So we start a fresh month, fresh week on the very same day. And so I thought this week, our week 4 of August, can look a little different. So I'm going to squeeze in some time to show you some expense trackers and some sleep trackers and how folks have used those in different ways. And just thought that might be kind of a fun thing to do. I don't use my expense tracker as an expense tracker, and I don't use my sleep tracker as a sleep tracker because I've got all the data here for that. So I thought it would be kind of fun to take a look and see what Sonder Family does and maybe inspire you if those pages are empty for you, maybe inspire you with an idea to use those trackers. So, last week of our mind map, I'm going to invite you to turn to that mind map that you set up. And of course, we have traveled through this beautiful theme. Week 1 was we started off just by thinking about the time of the day when something felt enchanted. And if you recall, we did talk about sunrises and sunsets, but there were also moments of, I'd lower the lights when I take my shower, and those things that hit for you as an individual, that time of day that just felt enchanting. And then week number 2 were the things that inspire that little spark. And we even went into the remembering foods and odors and maybe the way grandma's house smelled and those little magical things that were in our life. And then last week was truly the places that hold magic. And oh my goodness, you shared some beautiful spots. Lots of it was having to do with connecting to the outdoors. There really is something to that idea of forest bathing, of just being quiet and unplugged and paying attention and absorbing everything through your senses that makes those places so magic. And then this is week 4. We're going to talk about all those people that just enchant us. So think about the people who light up or spark your imagination, or offer you just meaningful presence. Is it a friend who tells great stories, or a child and how they look at that world with wonder, or an author who changed how you see life, or maybe a mentor who impacted you in a memorable way? And think about the qualities that they embody that bring out the best in you. You might even just sit with a list of qualities that you see in all these people, or you could really focus in on that one person or one group of people. Some ideas to explore: definitely think about authors. Sometimes you just read someone and you feel like they're writing your story or like they're a friend, you connect with them. Mentors, maybe historical characters or trailblazers. I'm reading a wonderful book right now called The Small and the Mighty, and it's about all these people whose stories are not well known, but they are so instrumental in our world, in America, and like a lot about the temperance movement and women's rights to vote and education for all. And it's all these small people that maybe have a plaque somewhere. But if it hadn't have been for them, there wouldn't be schools or libraries or, so maybe there's some historical characters that will speak to your heart about, that you're just enchanted by the movements. And of course, fictional characters. Maybe think about movies that you've seen, the heroines or heroes that have inspired you. So we can make our list forever and ever and ever. If you want to just kind of focus in on the qualities, you're totally invited to do that. Like think about the qualities and all these different people and make a list of those qualities. For me, mine is heavy, heavy, heavy children. Of course, y'all know I talk ad nauseum about my three little grands who just, like they're my reason for getting up now. But my career was in education and they were with littles. And so, from my college internships working with preschoolers to teaching kindergarten to be an administrator of an early childhood place that had 200 little ones every week. I mean, I got very lucky in being able to always be able to tap in to awe and wonder and if I had a bad day, I could just go in a classroom and roll some Play-Doh. I mean, how lucky was I? So I think it definitely, for me, is just really embracing that childlike wonder, that approach to life that, we forget they don't know all the stuff we know. Everything's fresh and new for them. So that's the way I explored this prompt. I can't wait for you to share some of those top people in the chat. I think it's just gonna like start this fire for our Monday morning. So share as you're comfortable, and then I will be back to check in, and we'll get on with that setup. we probably need about, oh, I don't know, an hour to talk about all these people that are in our lives. Love the idea of musicians who create these beautiful soul moving melodies and tunes with these lyrics that are just so strong. Oh, so many beautiful things, talking about little kids and how they just meet up and play, right? There's no pretension. If we could only be like that. You talked about your families, and then of course Nancy Drew popped up. Man, she was pretty empowering for lots of us when we were young. And then yes, Brene Brown, she's amazing. All these people who are trying to figure out how we can be the best version of ourselves. Love that. So you may end up working on this one throughout the week, and I'm going to challenge you to maybe reach out to a few of these people. We always talk about that social connection and how good it is for our brain. So maybe somewhere in your setup this week, you create a way to connect to some of these people who have brought you those moments of enchantment. Let's just take that, one step further. So our final rosebud thorn, well, it won't be. I guess we'll be looking back on this week next week. So next to the last rosebud thorn reflection in August is on page 50 this week. And I'll start with my thorn. That's the thing that caused, something that was a challenge or didn't go well. I caused a fender bender last week, y'all, and I jinxed myself because I came to you and said, I just didn't have any thorns this past week. It was just a really good week. And the universe said, hold on, I'm gonna fix that. So we had a little rainy morning, and my car just within inches. So it wasn't bad. Everybody's fine, but it's an inconvenience, and I'm going to have to take care of that and get that fixed. So I will always now look for a thorn, and I won't jinx myself. That bud is, what are you looking forward to? What is coming your way? What are you looking forward to learning or experiencing? For me, my bud is coming this week. There's a community garden at my place of worship, and the kind of head gardener is on vacation, and I have all his personal plants on my back porch, all his little seedlings for the fall. I'm taking care of them, but I also get to be like the head waterer this week. So I'll be heading up there to water all those things. I'm just excited. I love to watch those things grow. And then my rose, for me, the highlight of my week was actually getting to hang out with my little grand dog while my daughter and her husband traveled. So, I love having a puppy in the house. And that's how I get to do that. So I had my little grand puppy. So y'all work on this and share as you're comfortable. Like, how did your week go? Don't say you didn't get any thorns, because I think again the universe will realign and say, oh yeah. Anyway, I'll be back to check in with you in just a few moments. Hey, thanks for sharing, y'all. You have some thorns that are tough ones. Um, Remember that you're not alone, and there's some power in being able to write it down. And as Jennifer suggested, when you're looking at those thorns, can you find moments of gratitude within them that will help kind of reshape how you deal with those. And we just hope that, like the health stuff that some of you shared, that you'll get some resolution with that. I think it was Suzanne who said she hit a rowing goal. Um, and your husband's got some health challenges ahead, but I'm proud of you for that rowing goal. I just joined our rec center and I was doing that rowing machine. That'll work you out. So thanks for sharing, y'all. Always remember you've got this community. What happens here stays here, and it just sometimes feels really good to put things down on paper, right? So let's get on with our setup. As I mentioned at the front end of this week's going to look a little bit different. I just figured we've been together this whole month. You've seen lots of the stuff, my setup, and I thought I'm going to approach it a smidge different this week so we can make space to look at those sleep and habit track or sleep and financial trackers at the end. So turn to page 52 and 53. Here are those fun ways of maybe putting that little bit of enchantment to your days as you're setting up. So I brought this back, and you'll see this again later for the second page of our setup as well. But if that's something you want to grab, and I'll go back through these slides while you do work on these pages. Here are those fun days of the national days of this week that we will be embracing. So if you wanted to do, even maybe choose one thing that will bring a little enchantment to your life. If you're the birthday gal, maybe find one of the foods or beverages on here that you're like, okay, I'm gonna embrace that. I'm gonna have a cherry popsicle tomorrow. So those are kind of fun. And then of course we say goodbye to this month on the 31st. And then I want to talk a little bit about those to-do lists. So our to-dos and our goals for the week really are what helps us drive the car through the week, right? And so I thought this was kind of a fun thing. I bought a cake. Oh, wow, what's the occasion? Well, I made progress in my to-do list and I feel like celebrating. Oh, that's great. And then do y'all see the to-do list? The first one, buy a cake. And then we have all those things that we have to do. And kind of at the end of the month, I sort of flip back and go, I didn't do this and I didn't do that and I didn't do this. I need to celebrate the things that I did do and maybe, bring those other things forward. I always remind you, this is a piece of paper. This is neutral. But anyway, so I want to talk about very quickly some ways of being productive with your to-do list. We have talked about time boxing before. And so basically, on your piece of paper, maybe draw a line on one of these notes pages or on your weekly spread and write down each hour of the day. And then you can create blocks of time, so an hour or an half hour, and then take a look at those tasks that you have and kind of estimate how long do I think this is going to take, and you can write them in those time blocks next, and sort of track. So kind of making appointments with yourself. And it's okay to they can be appointments like I'm going to finally get my floors vacuumed, right? But like schedule that in, and it's going to take me 20 minutes. And I'm going to do it from 10 to 10:20. So you can create these boxes to help you accomplish those tasks. This gives you that little bit of structure that you may need if there's still things that are outstanding. We love the Pomodoro technique, and that is when we work for 25 minutes, take a 5-minute break. Another 25 minutes, take a 5-minute break. So you're actually setting a timer, like the little tomato timers. Tomato is or Pomodoro is tomato in Italian. And so that's where it gets its name. So you do that 4 times, then you take a break, a good break, and then you repeat, another four sections of 25 minutes of working. And that can really help you focus if you've got some tasks to if you're like digging into the garage or you've got a project due at work, try this method. The time, setting that time alarm really helps drive you. And yeah, and Alice says, once I get going, though, it's hard to stop. And so maybe you choose not to stop, but you're kind of working under that beat the clock frame of mind. And then, of course, do y'all know what this one is? This is the one that we share over and over and over again. And I loved the graphic for it. It is the Eisenhower matrix. The one at the top are those things that are in just super important and urgent, those tasks you got to get done, all the way down to I'm washing my hands of it and giving it away. I loved this graphic. The delegate down there on the bottom left. So, what I loved about this particular graphic is that we often talk about delete. There's no way I can delete this, or there's no way I can delegate this because I'm by myself in my household. But I want you to look at kind of that reframing of delete it. It is actually plugging in the distractions that are keeping you from that to-do list, the things that are not on that to-do list. That goes in the delete box. So power of the pen to paper of writing that in. Is it social media? Is it watching TV? Is it video games? Is it eating? Is it a negative behavior that is affecting you being successful with those things you want to do? Those are the kinds of things that can go in the delete box. So I really liked that. The delegated, like the meal prep, maybe it's worthwhile to have somebody do your shopping for you so that you can focus on the urgent and important things, right? And that's a way of delegating. So I kind of liked the idea of thinking of the delete box of literally listing the things that stand in the way of us being as productive as we want to be, right? Or getting those things done that we want to do. And we give power to the paper by writing those out and being accountable to self. Like I we all do it, right? We pick this up for one thing and then it's an hour later. So, how do we curtail that? It goes in the delete box and we put power in that by writing it down. So let's start with how we want to feel this week. If you've got a moment, if your weekend was great, drop a blue heart in the chat. If it was okay, drop an orange heart in the chat. If it was put a pink heart in the chat. Let us like support one another with these things. If it's not so good, it was brown. It probably shouldn't be a brown heart. It should be the other brown emoji. But how did your weekend go? Are we celebrating? Was it a great one or was it a rough one? Do you need to give yourself a little bit of grace? I want you to do this little check-in with yourself, because when you take a moment to check in with how you're feeling right now, it will help you set how you want to feel for the week. And if you have some mess or some not so goods, then that's right there telling you I need to have a little bit of extra time to care for myself. So, thank you for sharing that in the chat. I'm glad lots of you had great and okay weekends, so that's good. But if you're met and not so good, what do you need to do to take care of yourself so that you can feel like you are cared for? Anything can go in this. You can divide it up by days. You can have a feeling for every day. If you've got a big old meeting coming up Wednesday, you might need a different word for that. Wait, quotes, stickers, affirmations. Maybe it's the word you've been carrying through this whole month. Maybe it's your word of the year. No right or wrong way to do that. And then I'm going to now share with you whole pages of this, and these are actually, the majority of them are pages that we've looked at through the month with a couple of new ones thrown in as inspiration for setting up your first page of our setup. So I'm not going to break this all down into sections, but you can see here on the Example on the left, we've got the three goals of home, health, and heart. I always love alliteration, it just feels like it flows. And then the to dos are reflected straight off of that. Please notice the habit and activity tracker. Instead of a goal, they just wrote do your best down that. So they're only going to track and they put that, but I love that reminder of do your best. So you don't have to set goals here. The one over on the right in their habit and activity tracker at the bottom, they have set goals and they've already set up the days they want those goals to happen. So they put little dots to give them that visual of when that needs to happen. Um, there's a little mini that she's got instead of three major goals. You don't have to have those three major goals. You can repurpose this space, like the example on the right. The nighttime routines are in the goals section, and then the morning routines are in the to do section, as well as a little mini tracker for reading. So, again, it's really, what you need. What you want. Please start sharing, what you're thinking. Now, I shared this one last week. I think this was Gloria's, and I loved it because it's a built-in reward system, and I wanted to bring that back in case that was something that intrigued you last week when we looked at that. You kind of assign yourself points for certain things happening and the number of times it happens, add them up, and then you reward yourself. We all still love to get those gold stickers, right? And so maybe your reward is something as simple as having an iced coffee on your porch, taking that time for yourself. So I wanted to bring that back. We looked at these a couple of weeks ago of how folks were setting this space up. Little mini tracker over there on the right under the three major goals, and they had four goals, which is also okay. A bingo board for the to do, but the to do list has actually been turned into a cleaning list. And then the to do list on the left broken down into a lot of different sections. So, it's as much as you want to take or as little as you want to take, whatever you need for the week. We looked at these. The three major goals were being watered with some good stuff, growing those flowers, creativity, physical well being, mindfulness. And then you can see how that was used in the to do list. The one over there on the right, notice that some of those little check boxes in the habit and activity section are like they tracked it by just give addressing it, just kind of nope, it didn't happen, just a little line there, and then hearts when it did, but not setting a certain number of goals. And yes, that's such a good thing, Beth. One of your goals is to not overbook, right? We want to feel good at the end of the week, and we don't want to overdo anything. Some great example. There's a great to-do list there on the left. The one on the right is very similar to what mine looks like, kind of plain, kind of clean and simple. Um, Again, using that alliteration, I'm going to celebrate, connect, and create. And even down in the habit tracker, how am I celebrating me? And then that check off, that accountability piece. A couple of great ones. Now, this one on the left is, I think, from a year ago, and I love the little note to self over there in the to do box. Do you need some encouragement? Was last week a little rough? Write yourself a little note of encouragement, like you see here. The goals were prioritized at work, home, and joyfulness. And then I'm going to have more of something and less of something. So you can see how they broke that down, put work and home and joy, WHJ, and brought that down into the habit and activity tracker for, again, trying to connect all of this and make it work so that it's all feeding into one another. And let's see here. We got a repeat. I guess I really like that page. There's a repeat of that. And then there's some habit and activity tracker ideas for you. Now, I'm going to put on some music while you work on this page. And you guys have been sharing sort of like what your goals are. If you're repurposing anything, take a moment and share that in the chat. If you're having trouble kind of landing on how you want to feel this week, share that in the chat. Someone might have just the right word. If you are changing anything up, let us know. Like Dinah just put her activity and tracker, her habit and activity tracker includes check all the other trackers, right? Pointing yourself back to those. So, let us know like what you're putting in here, and then we'll be back for the second part of our weekly setup. I agree with you, Alice. Like maybe trying a reward system could be the thing that gets us out of the rut, and when we have something to look forward to and we gamify our life, that's a lot of fun to do so. But also, I think was it Cheryl who said her Cheryl, did you say that your pages were mostly blank in August? Yes. That's okay. We have ebbs and flows of life. We even have years that are kind of ebbs and flows in life. And so remember, I've said this before, I truly do believe there's power in the blank spaces as well. that tells us this was what was going on in life. And so that's information that you have. These are neutral. Don't feel bad about it. Just, let's maybe start to see how this week goes. And we've got a brand new month and new beginnings then. So, but I think they tell our stories when things didn't get done or checked off or they're empty. It's part of also, what happened in our life, more so than all the things that we did do. We're so good about looking at what we didn't do, right? Instead of celebrating what we actually did do. So we like to call this second page the B side. Our friend and facilitator Katie referred to it like the other side of the record album. And so there we are. And I'm going to show you full pages of this page and maybe inspire you with some ideas to incorporate on your setup. And then hopefully we'll be able to take a quick look at some of those other trackers that are in our journals that maybe don't get looked at so much. And we can look ahead to September and how we want to use that. So, y'all, this was if this is your meal plan on the left, let us know because I want to thank you for posting it. So their meal plan is more about focusing on eating healthy, and they've divided this up into just two columns with some questions. And the first one, did I log the meal? So they're probably, I do my Fitness Pal when I do it. I don't always do it, but so it's just a check-in. Did I log my meals today? And then the one on the right, the part of the on that section in the right says, and am I within that calorie range? Or I'm always trying to hit protein. So maybe mine would say protein. But I kind of like that the simplicity of like, yes, I did it or no, I didn't. Again, that accountability. And then the one on the right, the meal plan actually has the meals planned out in there. And the mind body health plan has become how they're going to move their body this week. The one on the left, the mind body health plan, is the ta-das, celebrating those things that were not on the list, but that got done, or some magical moments in their life. And then the person on the right is also embracing ta-das in their shopping list. And then, of course, we want to think about what are we truly loving right now in this moment. Um, so we've got some affirmations. The one over there on the right, the meal plan has been changed into a space for affirmation. It looks like they're getting two different affirmations each day, so they're tracking them there. And then maybe I think that's a word, maybe a Wordle type tracker in their shopping list, the one on the right, and or word of the day perhaps. And then the one on the left, the dinners, the main meal of the day is going into mind body health, and then they're going to use the meal plan as the highlights of the day, tracking those glimmers, those good things, with a little bit of a reading list. And they are loving their birthday weeks. I know we've got a couple of birthday people with us today. You have seen both of these earlier this month. I'm bringing them back. I'm just calling out, the one on the left, the meal plan. They're writing the day, what day it is, the 14th, 15th, 16th, etc. And kind of a fun little bingo board. It looks like a little spider web there on the mind body health plan, tracking the highlights in the shopping list, but also a little bit of a shopping list, those reminders down below that highlight repurpose. And daily top three. Also, the mind body health plan there was a transition week of authenticity into simplicity, those two themes. And so kind of leaned into very heavy journal time. So setting up their journal for that month of May, get those simplicity goals set up. So kind of embracing both of those themes. And then we talked about the taking a break, giving yourself a menu to draw from when you know you need that rest or that break from the rhythm and routine of the day. It's a great idea to have this source somewhere, a little menu to draw from. The Daily Jenny in this meal planner on the right, we loved that. If you are using our coaching app, those are the highlights for that. Daily we've got daily glimmers. We've got a meal plan on the left. The mind body health plan are just ways to take care of your body, stretching, walking, exercising. And then a little bit of me time for the meal plan on the one on the right. And then we've got doodles and designs for the meal plan on the left. Again, I had shared those earlier in the month, thought we'd have another little visit looking at them. And then there are those fun days if you want to incorporate them this week. Um, do that. And then also thinking about glimmers. If you want to incorporate that, that's a great way to keep capturing that magic of enchantment. Couple of challenges for you. Here's a mindfulness challenge that you might want to embrace for the week, as well as that positivity challenge. And that was the one that said every day it said, do not moan once. And so I thought that was that was pretty good. And I'll go back through these while you are setting this up. So let's put on some music, get this next page set up, and then I'm going to show you some sleep trackers and how to repurpose your expense tracker. Righty. So while you're finishing up setting up your spaces on the second page of our weekly setup, I thought it would be fun to maybe look at how folks repurpose some of those trackers that are in the front of our journal. I know that I don't always use the expense tracker or the sleep tracker. So I gathered a few examples to show you. And while we're talking about it, like we're on the expense tracker now, do you repurpose this space or do you use it for expenses? Like drop in the chat because what you do, of course, inspires others. Now, here's a couple of great ideas. Your declutter plan. I love that, Dinah. And I have an example. Maybe if you've posted it's yours. Let me show you some of these. So this is a monthly movement tracker on the left, which I thought was good. Like if that is something that is one of your goals, one of your intentions for getting healthy, maybe that. And then the one on the right, just like monthly to-dos, kind of like as you sit with a new month with September looking at your face, like what are some of these bigger things that you want to make sure happens? And this could also act as your kind of bank to go to as you set up your coming weeks. Um, and so I thought that was a really good idea because, months just have different things. Like, like I always start pulling out all the oranges, all the pretty, my pumpkins and my oranges and browns and kind of doing my seasonal decor. And that could be a good thing to put on my monthly to do. Like it's not really tied to a date, but I want it to happen this month. So that's a great idea. Here are two examples of affirmations. Like this is where the daily affirmations are going. The one on the right are Silk and Sonder affirmations. So if you are checking in with the Silk and Sonder Club every day, you're getting your affirmation. The one on the left is actually very financially focused. So perhaps this person's intention for their money management, right? This is supporting that intention of I had done, gosh, financial affirmations for like a year because I struggle with being okay in my head. And so this person is writing about that financial life through that lens on that monthly expense tracker instead of worrying about tracking actual expenses. They're leaning into daily affirmation there. So two different types of affirmation there. And then, of course, a great space for symptom trackers. Here's a migraine, how someone is tracking their migraines, how they're feeling, possible triggers, just to be able to like sync some things up. But you may have some other symptoms that you're tracking. Maybe there's something going on with your stomach, and so that's a great space to put that. To track that. And then everything's right there for your healthcare provider because you've been tracking intentionally in one space. Um, I love this yoga practitioner who has written out all the different types of yoga that have been practiced, and for how long, tracking the time frame in there. So perhaps this is what your exercise tracker could look like, and you could go into a little more detail with the things that you are doing. Here's that monthly declutter list, and what I love about this one, it's kind of a countdown. It's starting at the bottom and working the way up. So, we're going to get down to the last 10 days and it's going to be like 10, 9, 8, 7, and that countdown. But also notice the hashtags tracking how many items were given away. Can you imagine how fulfilling that is at the end of the month to total it all up? So I love that. There is a step tracker, and you can see they have just added all those steps together and tracking there. A reading tracker, three different reading trackers here, and I'm checking the time, and here we are at the very end again. But this is a great tracker for that. And then the sleep tracker, here we go. Another couple of reading trackers used in that sleep tracker. So maybe you repurpose that tracker for sleeping. This is a step counter with using those boxes for the thousands. So, 1,000, 2,000 steps and tracking that way. A glucose monitor tracker. Again, another symptom tracker there. Here's a couple of anxiety trackers that folks have done. And so one is really focusing on where do I feel it in my body, the one on the left, and what is a concern I have, maybe what's causing that, over to the one on the right with what am I worried about, and then what can I do about it. So again, a great idea. Exercise tracker here for what day is it, legs day, shoulder day, arm day, another step tracker. This sleep tracker has fasting, your daily weight, as well as sleeping. So, kind of divided that up to make sure that you're tracking all the things. And then finally, moon phases, and then this overall satisfaction tracker, like, on a scale of 1 to 10, how are things going? And looking at those weeks, and then the weekends are highlighted so that you can distinguish between your weekdays and your weekends. Hopefully, your weekends are higher satisfaction. So that brings us to the end. I'm sorry I went a little over, but this is being recorded. So if you wanted to grab those, images, you'll be able to check that video out. But again, just wanted to give you a little of some inspiration as we move into our September and some things to think about for your new tracker that's coming. Thank you for joining us today. Team Jennifer loves starting the week with y'all. It's just great. And we'll see you next week. Bye, y'all.